Some people like a low-stress, low-danger, comfortable life. And then there's these 10 people who are definitely not of that ilk. Daredevils are a different breed of entertainer. They constantly put their health and well-being on the line for the sake of entertainment, and that's probably the reason why people call them insane. There are literally hundreds of noteworthy Daredevils, but here on this channel we only want to give you the best of the best. The person in number 1, in my opinion, is the best of them all, so stay tuned for that. Here are 10 of the most insane Daredevils of all time. Number 10. Harry Houdini. Born Eric Wise, Harry Houdini is arguably the world's most renowned and celebrated magician, illusionist, stuntman, and daredevil. His name is synonymous with achieving what seems to be impossible. Almost immediately after his family's US arrival from Budapest in 1878, young Harry started making a name for himself, first as a trapeze artist, then as a cross-country runner. But his big break came in Woodstock, Illinois, when he met manager Martin Beck, who, impressed with his handcuffs escape act, began booking him on the vaudeville circuit. And the rest, as they say, is history. From his Chinese water torture cell stunt, where Houdini was submerged within a metal cage and locked within a larger cell, to his notorious suspended straitjacket escape, Houdini was as much an innovator as he was a madman. Number 9. John Holtum. While you may not know John Holtum's name, we're almost positive you're familiar with his place in popular culture. Whether inspiring a Looney Tunes cartoon or adorning the wall in a pictorial tribute to the American circus, the man who caught the cannonball with his bare stomach is something of an icon. After a brief tenure training as a common circus-grade strongman in and around San Francisco in the late 1800s, Holtum returned to his native Europe to do the unthinkable. After 2 years and some very serious injuries, including the loss of multiple fingers, he found a way to successfully catch a real live cannonball. Of course, shot out of a real live cannon, using only a pair of gloves and a chest pad to mute the force of the projectile's impact. Some believed the ball was lighter than normal or even hollow inside. Yet, despite the public doubt and a standing 3,000 franc offer Holtum made to anyone who would challenge him, no dissenter ever dared try the stunt Holtum so fearlessly pioneered. Number 8. Larry Walters. Anyone who says regular Joes can't be daredevils has never heard of truck driver turned balloon airship designer Larry Walters. Armed with little more than a patio chair, 45 helium-filled weather balloons, which are, by the way, much larger than your average birthday variety, and a hunger for exploring the unknown. Walters became the first person to ascend into controlled airspace using a piece of lawn furniture when in 1982 he flew his homemade craft dubbed Inspiration 1 from his home in San Pedro, California to Los Angeles International Airport. In that time frame, he had reached an altitude of 15,000 feet. Plagued by poor eyesight, Walters was unable to fulfill his dream of becoming a U.S. Air Force pilot, and this adventure, first conceived when he was a teenager, was his attempt at realizing that dream. Unfortunately, it wasn't totally thought through. Walters planned on descending by shooting balloons with a pellet gun he carried aboard, but after dropping the gun overboard minutes after popping the first couple of balloons, he found himself on a wayward journey that he couldn't quite control. After 45 minutes in the air, he landed on a Long Beach power line, causing a temporary outage. Though Walter was immediately arrested upon landing, because if you didn't realize it yet, what he did was pretty illegal, he was reportedly unbroken by the course of events, famously saying, "A man can't just sit around." His feat has been the subject of many television specials and documentary segments, one of which we provided for you above. Enjoy, but do us a favor and stick to airplanes. Number 7. Tanner Faust. Mostly known as the host of the American version of Top Gear, Tanner Faust is a legend in the racing world. He was born on June 13, 1973. As a child, he lived in Scotland briefly. There he learned how to drive and practiced frequently on the country roads. Upon his return to the US, Faust went on to get a degree in biology. However, this wasn't his true passion. During college and a few years later, he worked as a helper around the racetracks and also as a driving coach. He slowly went on to become a professional race car driver. In 2003, he officially moved to California to be a stuntman. Because he was so good at driving, he quickly blew up. Soon enough, he would become a stunt driver for almost all of the Hollywood movies at that time. These include the Need for Speed movies, The Fast and the Furious, Iron Man 2, and so on. When it comes to his racing career, Faust was successful there as well, and he received plenty of gold and silver medals and won against some of the best racers in the world. Number 6. Philippe Petit. Philippe Petit is a person that cannot be described in one word, nor even a sentence. Essentially, he is a man that had tried and succeeded in everything. He was born in France on August 13, 1949. As a young boy, he loved magic tricks and juggling. He was actually only 16 when he tried his hand, or foot, at a high-wire walking. In addition, he quickly learned all the dangerous high-wire tricks by himself. One night in June 1971, Petit sneaked onto the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris and set up a wire between the two towers. The next day, he performed on it as the crowd below cheered him on. He did the same thing with the Twin Towers in New York, just 3 years after the Paris stunt. Believe it or not, Petit had been planning this New York stunt for 6 whole years, before the towers were even built. After that fact, he did a couple of similar stunts and collaborated with the circus and some other artists such as Mikhail Baryshnikov and Sting. Petit was also good at equestrianism, bullfighting, rock climbing, and fencing. His amazing life and courage inspired plenty of movies and documentaries. Number 5. Jackie Chan. You thought the almighty Jackie Chan wouldn't make it to this list? Are you out of your mind? Jackie Chan probably has the richest biography out of all the Daredevils on this list. He's known as an actor, martial artist, stuntman, producer, film director, and even a singer. He also dressed up as Chun-Li from Street Fighter that one time. Born on April 7, 1954, Chan was an energetic child, which is why his parents nicknamed him Pow Pow, also known as Cannonball. He wasn't very good in school, so he went on to study acting at the Drama Academy. During this period, he would also train martial arts. He excelled in everything he did, except for school. By the end of his schooling, he acquired the black belt and also landed a couple of movie roles. His first films weren't that big of a success. However, the 1978 Snake and the Eagle's Shadow was a big hit. In this movie, he had the opportunity to create his own stunts, which he couldn't do in his previous movies. That's when everyone realized how talented he was. Jackie Chan is an absolute legend in both the East and the West. Since the 60s, he has starred in over 150 movies and performed his own stunts in all of them. This was often to great physical harm to himself, which actually is the reason why he earned a spot on this list. Number 4. Travis Pastrana. Travis Pastrana is a professional stuntman and motocross, supercross, and rally race competitor. At the age of only 13, he was already doing motocross and stunts. So far, he's won 3 motocross championships and gained a giant fan base. Although he was doing quite well in motocross, his favorite sport was freestyle motocross. Freestyle allowed him to go crazy with his stunts. He won the first ever Moto X freestyle competition hosted by X Games, and he would go on to compete at this event every single year, 16 years in a row. Aside from motorcycling, Pastrana also loved rally racing. He was successful at this sport, as well as winning a couple of gold medals and even beating Colin McRae. As if that weren't enough, Pastrana was an incredible stuntman too. One of his most insane stunts was jumping over the Caesar Palace fountain in his car. He also broke a couple of Evel Knievel's records while he was at it. Even though he suffered quite a few injuries throughout his career, Travis Pastrana doesn't plan on backing down anytime soon. Number 3. Annie Edson Taylor. 63-year-old Annie Edson Taylor became the first person to successfully go over Niagara Falls in 1901 when she took the plunge inside a wooden barrel. A schoolteacher by trade, Taylor had found herself in financial trouble and conceived the stunt in the hope that it would gain her fame and fortune. She had a specially designed barrel filled with padding, and after testing it with an ordinary house cat, went over the Horseshoe Falls section of Niagara herself on October 21st, 1901. Amazingly, she survived the 173-foot plunge with little more than a small gash on her head. Unfortunately, though, the stunt failed to garner Taylor the fame she'd hoped for, and after making a small amount of money on a speaking tour, she spent her later years scraping by on money made from posing for souvenir photos. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's pick is a daredevil that has earned the nickname of Spider-Man. And just like the friendly, wall-crawling, web-headed hero, his actions have often brought the ire of authorities. Find out who he is and what he does next with number 2. Alain Robert. Frenchman Alain Robert is a well-known daredevil who helped pioneer the sport of urban climbing with his highly dangerous and highly illegal climbs up some of the world's tallest skyscrapers. This was the practice that has earned him the nickname French Spider-Man. Robert claims to have gotten to start scaling buildings at age 12 when he forgot the keys to his house and was forced to climb the outside of the building to get inside. Since then, he has made a name for himself both as a rock climber and for scaling over 85 structures and skyscrapers around the world, including the Eiffel Tower, the Sydney Opera House, the Sears Tower, and the Petronas Twin Towers. Robert makes every climb freehand, using only the natural architecture of the buildings to help him, and claims to have fallen 7 times, twice from heights as high as 50 feet. Robert's stunts are almost always unsanctioned by local authorities, and in nearly every case he is arrested upon reaching the top of the buildings he's been climbing. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. Evel Knievel. I mean, really, could there have been anybody else worthy enough to get the number 1 spot on this list? Always on a bike, always adorned with tassels, and always getting into trouble. Evel Knievel, as much a part of the American ethos as American Pie, is a fascinating case study as much because of what he did right as what he did wrong. First entering the Daredevil biz in 1966, Knievel didn't gain national recognition until 1967. At that time, he jumped Caesar's Palace fountain on New Year's Eve. After a failed landing, he spent 29 days in a coma. In many ways, that first flawed foray into the national spotlight would be representative of the rest of his time there. Knievel is also a world record holder, but it's not something you'd want to emulate. You see, he holds the record for the most number of bones broken in a lifetime. Throughout his career and despite his many great successes, Knievel's unrelenting desire to push the envelope farther than it was meant to be pushed ultimately resulted in numerous botched stunts and resulting serious health afflictions. Know of any more insane daredevils that should have made this list? Make sure to let us know down in the comments below. Also check out the channel's other amazing videos. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.